I just finished writing this like last night, so that's why I'm going to have a Obama teleprompter. Thanks to Tara and Mike, all of Atomic Dust, for letting me crash your weekly lunches. How close should I hold this? I have a tendency to do like the Jay-Z thing. All right, that's good. And the thousands of free beers that I've drank at your agency over the past 5-6 years. Thank you guys for the next 3 hours of your time. I hope it's worth it. It's 30 minutes? Oh, God. This is initially, I thought that this would only apply to about 3% of you. But since there's only around 50, 65 people here, instead of the 1,000 that I was promised, Tara, where'd she go? I feel like she disappeared. Yeah, you need to stay in here. We can move that decimal point over a little bit. That's right. About 0.003% of you. And that's the extent of animation for this presentation. I'm going to attempt to steer clear of any generalizations or key takeaways because really it's only relevant to me. But if you are able to take away something, please let me know and send it to me so I can put in my next presentation that I write the night before. I'm assuming the general interest in having me speak is that there's a growing interest towards professional independence. And in some ways, I guess I have achieved a certain level of that, but not in any sort of idealistic millennial way with some well-written blog or a great Instagram feed with me and my dog traveling the nation. It's not as pretty as any of that bloggy bullshit. It's pretty mundane when I break it down, as I found out. So now that I've gotten all you amped up, please live tweet because everybody loves reading about an event that they're not at, that actually have no idea what's going on except for key quotes here and there, and you don't have to worry because there won't be any key quotes. You can live tweet though, actually. That was just me being sarcastic against myself. I'm going to try and present this in terms of past, present, and future. It only makes sense to give you guys a bit of a biography so that you can understand where I am today and where I'd like to go. So since a young age, I've always been fascinated with death. The idea that this ride will eventually come to an end has been a jumpstart to my life, my decisions, my career or lack thereof, and art at key points. But before we get to the end, let's go to school. After trying all forms of schooling, private, public, homeschooling, no schooling, I enrolled into Merrimack Community College at 15. Yeah, Merrimack. The key thing is that I didn't do anything exceptional here, but that my mom said, why not? Why can't you take dual enrolled classes as a high school and college student? As a result, I didn't get a GED or a diploma, so I'm technically a high school dropout, which is a great conversation if you're from St. Louis. But my mom said, go for it, just try it out. I was kind of a nerd, as you can easily tell. I think I got laser pointer. There you go. And she just said, why not? Go for it. Take classes that you want to do and forget the high school bullshit. I was like, okay. So at 15, I'm in classes with 18 and 81-year-olds in community college. Fast forward to Maryville, a little bit older, a little bit wiser at 18. There were no majors at Maryville that seemed especially catered to me or relevant to what I wanted to do. So I talked to my advisor and I said, can I just make one up? And she's like, well, nobody's never done that before. And I said, well, why not? So, bam. 2 years later, I had a BA in, I have to read it because I don't really know it, Independent Study in Digital Media and Philosophy. So there I am, graduated at 20 with a made-up degree. And what do I do with all this promise and potential? Go back to school. Because I had absolutely zero idea of what I wanted to do yet. And I had the Ben Button disease, so I kind of aged in reverse. I just used the same ID. I learned like motion graphics, 3D, creative writing, things I could never take when I had to worry about my GPA. And it was a great time because teachers loved me because I didn't give a shit. And I was actually able to make better schoolwork in that year than I had ever done previously. After a year of this and numerous failed attempts to attend grad school, tried 3 times, I decided to try and get a job because if you can't go back to school for longer, you should try and go to work. So first interview was with an agency who shall remain nameless. And first question they asked when I was interviewing with them was what position I wanted to go for, the designer or the copywriter. I had figured that I had written all my awesome fake ads in my advertising courses, so I said both. I want to go for the designer and the copywriter. Well, they kind of look at me and just laugh and say, this punk 20-year-old is wasting my time. Looked at my portfolio, gave me a tour, and then swiftly said, don't let the door hit you, or the good Lord split you. Again, but under different circumstances, I asked myself, well, why not? Why can't I do both these roles? That doesn't make sense to me. It was very green, so now it makes sense to me, but that kind of mentality is ever present. It's like, well, I want to design and I want to write, and if you're not going to let me, I'm going to try and figure out how I can. So I kept hustling and doing freelance for a while, trying to get interviews, emailing some of you. I think Eric Toki back there probably sent a few emails to you. Thank you for not answering them. Doing the typical design intern thing where you email tons of people, you have fancy emails. I get them by the thousands now. I don't know why, because I've never hired anybody full time. But it's just, you're hustling and you're working so hard trying to get this money, doing your art. And that's all you can think about. You're wondering why people aren't calling you back. And it's just this grind of 40 hours of emailing a week with no responses back. It's wonderful. I wanted to work in beer. People know what that logo is, you know. That's Chef what? Yes, Chevrolet. Drinking and driving. Friends had just got hired at Moosylvania, if anybody knows what that is. And there was probably no better place in my mind for a 21-year-old to work at as a designer, copywriter, philosopher. I wanted to be in St. Louis, working for a crazy agency with a crazy name, doing booze. But like many things that happen in your career, it didn't happen at all. Another opportunity that presented to me before, but I wasn't really interested. My best friend was living with an art director who had come from California to work in Fenton, believe it or not. And my friend, he's like, you really should go check this out. I'm like, I don't want to work there. He's like, well, why not? And that's kind of key because he pushed me into questioning myself when I thought that I had the plan the whole time. So a month later, instead of trying to sell beer, I shift just a tiny bit to selling this guy. That's Jesus. It's a religious-based, non-for-profit organization, which is funny if I've had conversations over beers with any of you in the past 10 years. It was really hard at first, 50 hours a week, not much sleep for somebody that goes to bed at 2 a.m. like I did last night. First time I'd ever had my work bitch-slapped and torn apart. The teachers loved me, but then when you get rid of the teachers and in a real-world situation, they're not trying to make you happy and graduate. They're just trying to get work that is good and done. And so right there, I learned to kill my ego related to my design work, which is important for starting up an agency in the future. But I was able to design and do copywriting. And so that was kind of key with me. I wasn't doing it in the way that I thought I would be, but I'd found a way to exercise both of those creative outlets. But because of burnout and with impeccable timing of insight, I quit my job at the end of 2007, right before the recession. It was really good. Good timing. But aside from all the other things I learned, a key moment was Katrina. So I had previously only shot photography in college at Merrimack, and Katrina had hit landfall, and the organization I was working with responded very quickly to these kinds of natural disasters. So it went out through the office that they needed a photographer, and I had only black and white photos from like some crappy 35 millimeter that were okay for college work, but I thought, why not? And I emailed my pictures to the CEO. Actually, I don't think I emailed them. I think they were actual physical prints that I had to hand deliver. He looked over them and he said, cool, you're going. So 2 days later, I was on a jet down to New Orleans, which was completely evacuated at the time, with about $20,000 worth of gear around my neck that I had absolutely no idea how to use. Like Canon 1D Mark I. I mean, this is old, really nice stuff. 70-200 lens, you know, way more stuff. I think I had a flash, definitely didn't need a flash. Probably had a tripod strapped to my back, completely unnecessary. Didn't know how to use the cameras at all because I had 2 days to how to figure out to use the top-end professional line camera. So most of my photos came out overexposed. That's it, one of my best pictures. Last year, I decided to revisit and try and salvage some of my photos after 10 years because I wasn't sure if there was anything good. I was able to salvage some of them. That's the Superdome. There's nobody in this photo, which I find kind of amazing. There's nobody in any of these photos because it was literally evacuated. These are blown out buildings from the, I can use this again, from the hurricane. And yes, flooding right by the Superdome and then flooding throughout New Orleans. So this was kind of an incredible opportunity for a non-professional photographer to go to somewhere where the world was focused at the time. And this was initially the job that I had just kind of sniffed at. Like, I don't want to work in a ministry. I don't want to work in religion. But here I am being able to travel with them to this hotspot. There was no Instagram at the time, so nobody knew. But I had this experience that I would fall back on many more times moving forward. Because of this, I got better with the cameras, and I was given opportunities from the same ministry to do some photojournalism in Cambodia. It's me with Eagle from a slum, Africa, and India, mostly shooting children. Taking photos of children, not shooting children. That's got a wrong connotation. And these are actually the only photos that I have even gone through because it takes me 10 years. That's also a running theme. So hopefully somewhere there's about 10,000 photos that are waiting to be shown to the world. And hopefully they're as good as these two. Why not? It was at this point I realized I had a decent eye for photography since I finally figured out how to use the camera. But there was no Instagram, so I kind of fell out of it. And literally, because of that. It took me about an hour to edit and share these photos with 15 friends on Flickr. Did anybody else do that? Anybody big on Flickr back in the day? And now you can share immediately with 15 friends and 1,500 strangers in order to motivate yourself to create more and more photos. I think it was easy to be a photographer again when Instagram started. Now I think it's hard because everybody's got a damn camera and always taking amazing photos. But that's a digression, doesn't matter. So, 2008, quit my job, recession hits, photo work dries up, start freelancing again, this time doing design with Paradowski, back when they were in the Crayola box building, if anybody remembers that. I'm really showing my age, it's an age gate. And then working with Toki. He finally called me back. I started doing image retouching. So there I was. I knew when I was working full-time that something wasn't right after 3 nonstop years of working, showing up to the same desk every day, feeling fulfilled kind of, but also stuck in this hamster wheel, albeit a hamster wheel that paid great for just running around in a circle 5 times a week. So my obvious next step, freelance. Freelance is good, pays great, but I realized by shifting the use of I to R and me to we, I could make more money and become an agency or an anti-agency. It wasn't supposed to be that revelatory. This was in 2009, which ironically was about how much I made in American dollars that year. How I started making actual money to live off of is almost another presentation in and of itself because it's very hard to summarize. If I had to, it would be like when you go from college to the workforce and you're in the workforce and you're like, God damn it, I had so much free time in college that I just didn't realize that I had. And then it's kind of the same thing when you go to work for yourself after having worked at a job. You're like, oh my God, I had so much more free time when I had to go to a place and I could quit at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever it is. It's the same thing because you never stop working. You're never able to like fully disconnect when you leave the building. Because in my case, I'm always in the building, so work is ever present. Vacations are never the same. You're never able to unplug. It's very hard, but that's a whole nother presentation. So I created Anti-Agency, no overheads, no full-time employees, no real website, no problem. A collective of 20 studios that were willing to do some really good work. We did really good work, won some nice-sized clients. I wanted to scale up. It's a little inside joke for graphic designers, if you can figure out who that is. But I watched others do it, and I realized that how much of scaling up is just management of others. I wasn't having any of that. I didn't want to do any of that. And somewhere along the line, not that long ago, I just got tired of doing client work. I have a little video, if you can play that now. How rude. He can say it better than I can.
Never play to the gallery, I think. But you never learn that until much later on, I think. But never work for other people at what you do. Always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself and how you coexist with the rest of society. And I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. I think they generally produce their worst work when they do that. And the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
Yeah, I have to follow Bowie. That idea of being an artist, being very epic, is something that, I think we all kind of deal with as creatives. If you're a designer, writer, photographer, whatever, at the core of what we do is art, and we do it for other people. And so not too long ago, I started to lose that desire to do it for other people. I felt that nothing I created really had any permanence. You do event graphic or signage, and it's cool for a week, and then it ends up in the landfill. I wasn't really doing work that was really great, and I wasn't living up to what I thought I would do in life. You can only have so many nights of cropping photos of lawyers, endlessly, and finding stock photos of people in sunsets before it really starts to grate on you. And as always, the ever-present awareness of death and feelings of time running out helped me to realign my life. So instead of clients, I started looking for partners. I thought that I would probably care more about the work that would continue to make me money after I had done it once. So it was that's called Entrepreneurship 101. It was around 2011, so obviously I need to come up with an app. First thing I realized, most app ideas suck. Infinite meetings of Facebook plus YouTube equal Facetube and Ubook, and I got tired of all these cool app ideas that did nothing original. This was at the height of it, so everybody and their mother was hitting you up with an NDA saying, let's meet, I got the next best idea, I got no money, well, maybe I even have like 20, 30, 40 grand, and we're going to make magic happen. No. All these cool ideas kind of turned me off. I was tired of seeing cool ideas. And then I realized that uncool was the way to go. That being said, I happened upon these two brothers who had built an incredible native mobile app for automotive sales. And what is less cool than automotive sales, Lance Appleby? Nothing. I worked up a partnership after creating the branding. And long story short, it was tons of meetings, conventions, trips, Arch Grants finalists, big deals with big companies, but no money. And slowly, we realized that even though we'd built the best native mobile app for car sales that there was, we were unwittingly working in the dumbest industry in America. No hard feelings if anybody is an auto dealer. I still love you guys. After 2 years, I lost the passion for the project, which was mostly fueled by money. Good design and marketing, yeah, good UI, whatever, it was fun. But mostly it was like, we're really gonna sell the shit out of this. That was kind of my main driver the entire time because I think everybody had that kind of startup rush money. So, 2013, I was pretty bummed about my first legit entrepreneurial effort. And then, without warning, inspiration struck with that beautiful looking garage-made object. What the hell is that? Well, you know how you use church keys to put holes in beers? Well, yeah. Well, now we make 2 holes. Another Lance Appleby idea. You should talk to him. He's smart. He's got tons of ideas. And as silly as this crudely made thing was, I really liked the idea of being partners on a physical product, even if it seemed hilariously simple. This was kind of like my middle finger Fight Club response to the tech startup world. No more apps, no more tech. I want to make something I can physically hold. And what I started to realize throughout this process is that designers have more ability, and creatives, not just designers, than we think we do. I've always said that my talent wasn't in being able to create the best design or perfect type or coolest poster, but that I know what those things were when I saw them. I couldn't make illustrations like Preston or Noah, but I know that they make incredible illustrations. And I think that's important when you try to do a project like this. We all have good taste in images, objects, furniture. It's not as hard as you think to translate your taste into passion projects where you're actively learning. So I didn't care about the money this time around. I didn't know if it would be successful, honestly. My partner did. He's the very optimistic half of us, if you've ever met him. I was genuinely interested in trying to make a physical object that maybe some of my friends would use and maybe some people in St. Louis would know about. I was literally going back to school, not literally, quotes, and learning tons about leather, manufacturing, product design, 3D printing, writing and directing videos for Kickstarter, and all this just to make a bottle opener. As a result of this, though, in a much quicker amount of time, can you edit that out? Thank you. It actually started making money. Kickstarter funded in 30 hours and then 420% overall. And we had a brand called Snakebite. So we went back then from about 1 to 2 sales a day to an average of 10 to 12 a day. We're about to launch our second flagship tool next week. Next week, it's on Kickstarter, next week. And attempt to do it all over again with the Mamba. So things are going good. It's 2016. I'm still thinking about death. Still doing some client work. But after looking over the 33 years that I've been on this planet, I've realized it's not about doing only what I want to do or only what I'm good at. For me, it's trying to get to that perfect day as often as possible. You might ask yourself, what is a perfect day? Thank you for asking. For me, I think I tweeted this out like a year ago or something, and I was just trying to think to myself, I think I had been watching Casey Neistat talk about his day. If anybody knows Casey Neistat, he's like this incredible, highly productive individual who's now a big YouTube vlogging star. Vlogging is kind of weird, I know, but before that, he was doing a lot of crazy, interesting stuff. And so he charted out his day, and he's like, well, I sleep about 4 hours a day. I exercise about 3 hours a day. And then I work about 10 hours a day. Then I see my family. And I thought that was crazy. I can't sleep only 4 hours a day. So I started to think about what my perfect day looks like. And for me, it's being able to read 2 hours a day, write 2 hours a day, exercise 2 hours a day, which I think is one of the most important components that creatives and entrepreneurs tend to leave out. Work 5 hours a day. If I'm reading and writing, that's technically work, so I'm working full 8 to 9 hours. Social, that's not Facebook and Instagram scrolling. That's like going out and meeting people in your neighborhood or hanging out with you guys. Miscellaneous should ideally be something that's not just focused on you. and then sleep, because you have to sleep. So these are all important parts to me. You know, your perfect day may look a little bit different than this, but work is one of the most important parts of it, especially right now. So I don't have the perfect day right now, but this is what I'm trying to strive for in the future, because I always think about death. I want every single day to be the best day that it can be. It doesn't always happen like that, but you can still shoot for that. I don't want a day where I'm scrolling through stock photography for 12 hours or in endless meetings. In fact, I don't even really do many meetings because my clients know that it's not worth it. Meredith remembers. Yeah, no meetings. Unless it's absolutely necessary. But, where am I? I realized that my weird career and progression of luck and misfortune and asking why not all the time, either my mother or my best friend or me asking myself to other people or myself, has provided me the energy and desire to be my own client more and more. It's kind of like being a kid again with the knowledge of what it takes to be an adult. So that being said, I've been playing around again with art. This is just some fun art I made recently. Traveling and doing photography again. I was able to go to Havana, Cuba 2 weeks ago with the Live magazine, kind of tapping back into the photojournalism roots I had so long ago. And that was a great time. And I'm aligning my company to actually be something worthwhile instead of just a cool name. New logo, blending my love of government design with my hatred of government and authority. Everybody knows that I wear my White House jacket. And I'm continuing to discover what I'm passionate about. We live in a time where the more you put what you want to do out there, whether it's Facebook, conversation, beers with friends, coffee, just thinking and investing mental time into it, the more likelihood that you'll find yourself doing what you really want to do. And doing what you're passionate about will create meaning in your life, and in turn create a life that's worth living instead of just making a living. And when you do that, your work, art, time, money, and life all turn into one thing, and you find yourself having your own perfect day more and more often, even if you or I are not there yet. Thanks.